Welcome to the Past in Pictures channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. A Polish boy sits among the ruins where his home once stood in Warsaw after a German bombing in 1939. The scene portrays the devastation caused at the start of the Second World War. Images like this became symbols of civilian suffering during the conflict. Fire engines became completely frozen after fighting a large blaze in Boston in 1920. Extremely low temperatures turned the firefighting water into ice. The scene shows the vehicles covered in thick layers of ice after the fire was brought under control. The 1940s photograph shows the ball turret gunner, a position used on Second World War bombers. The gunner worked in an extremely small space located on the underside of the aircraft. This duty required courage and endurance, as the risks were high during air battles. An Indian ascetic practices a spiritual act in the 19th century, wearing a metal frame welded around the neck. The goal was to live in constant discomfort as a form of discipline and devotion. Such extreme practices symbolized renunciation and control over the body to reach spiritual elevation. American tanks advance under enemy fire near the Rhine River in 1945. The operation was part of the final Allied offensives in the Second World War. United States forces sought to cross the river to push into Germany and end the conflict in Europe. The photograph taken in 1935 shows workers during the building of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. Hanging at great heights, they worked without the safety gear used today. The project, finished in 1937, became an engineering landmark and one of the most recognized symbols of the United States. American sculptor Anna Coleman Ladd created prosthetic masks for soldiers disfigured during the First World War. Her work combined art and medicine, restoring identity and confidence to men wounded in combat. Each mask was handmade, shaped in copper, and painted to look as natural as possible. A curious mishap took place in Denver in 1970 when a car was left hanging on a lift after a bolt failed. A man climbed up to inspect the structure while the vehicle swayed dangerously. The scene shows the safety challenges of mechanical parking systems of the time. In New York in 1929, workers appear at extreme heights during the construction of a skyscraper. The scene shows the dangerous daily life of laborers who shaped the city skyline. Without modern safety equipment, they balanced on beams high above the ground. Children play in the streets of London in 1940 while wearing gas masks during the Second World War. The equipment was required because of frequent air raid alerts. The scene shows how daily life continued even amid the fear and uncertainty of war. The image shows a reduced gravity walking simulator at the National Aeronautics and Space Administration Langley Research Center in Virginia in 1965. The equipment was developed to train astronauts to move as they would on the moon. This technology helped prepare the missions of the Apollo program. The photograph shows a baby being fed directly by a goat, an unusual practice in earlier times. This method was used when there was no access to human milk or suitable substitutes. The image illustrates how families sought simple alternatives to nourish newborns before factory-made infant foods became common. A couple travels by car with their baby and their dog, seated in a small perch on the roof of the vehicle. The scene reflects the creativity and improvisation of families in earlier times, when safety and comfort were ideas different from modern standards. The image conveys the adventurous spirit of early family road trips. A Mississippi river diver in 1938 uses a car tank adapted as a helmet to search for pearls. This practice required creativity and courage, since the improvised gear did not offer full safety. Pearl harvesting was a common activity in the region during the early 20th century. The 1960 image shows a cradle attached to the dashboard of a Corvair car designed as a promotional accessory. The idea was to let parents travel with the baby always in view. Although curious, the concept failed for safety reasons and was quickly dropped. Patients at St. Willibrordus Psychiatric Hospital in Curaçao take part in outdoor exercises in 1956. The practice was part of occupational therapies used to promote physical and mental well-being. This activity was common in mental health institutions of the time. The photograph shows the balloon Örnen after a forced landing on Arctic ice during the failed Swedish expedition to the North Pole in 1897. The mission, led by Salomon Auguste André, aimed to reach the pole by air. After technical problems and strong winds, the balloon went down, leaving the crew isolated on the ice. The 1926 image shows a 3-deck bus running in Berlin, Germany. Designed to carry as many passengers as possible, the vehicle represented an experimental phase of urban public transport. Impressive as it was, the model was judged unstable and soon set aside in favor of 2-deck buses. A trainer plays with an elephant, which wraps its trunk around the man's face. The scene, likely recorded in the early 20th century, shows the close relationship between animals and handlers in circuses or zoos of the time, illustrating the bond and trust between humans and trained elephants. During a training session in 1942, a supermarine walrus seaplane is launched from the ship His Majesty's ship Pegasus at about 70 miles per hour. The catapult system allowed reconnaissance planes to take off directly from the deck. The operation required coordination and skill to ensure a safe launch over the sea. United States ship Holland was the first submarine commissioned by the United States Navy in 1900. Powered by electric and gasoline engines, it could operate both on the surface and underwater. Although small and experimental, it marked the beginning of the modern era of submarine warfare. The photograph shows wind tunnel tests of the Messerschmitt Bf 109 fighter in Germany around 1940. The plane was one of the main fighters of the German Air Force during the Second World War. These aerodynamic tests were used to improve speed, stability, and combat performance. A circus acrobat shows strength and balance in a performance from the 1920s. These performers traveled with touring troupes, bringing displays of physical skill and dexterity to different cities. The image reflects the height of the golden age of traditional circuses. The 1930 photograph shows a veteran cyclist and his trainee practicing in a velodrome. The athlete in front, called the pace setter, set the speed to help the other improve velocity and endurance. This training method was common in track cycling competitions in the early 20th century. The image shows Percy Hodge, Olympic champion of the 3,000-meter steeplechase, demonstrating perfect hurdle form. Known for precise mechanics and balance, Hodge won the event at the Antwerp Games in 1920. The photograph highlights the clean and efficient style that made him a model in track and field of the time. About 1.86 miles. The photograph shows the original Ferris wheel, built for the Chicago World's Fair in 1893. Designed by George Washington Gale Ferris, Jr., it was created to rival the Eiffel Tower in Paris. The structure stood more than about 246 feet tall and could carry more than 2,000 people per revolution. It became a symbol of modern engineering and international expositions. The photograph shows Polish wrestlers Adam Sendurski and Jan Falandis during the Moscow Olympic Games in 1980. Both competed for Poland in different styles of Olympic wrestling. The image captures a moment of focus and readiness between two of the nation's leading athletes at that tournament. The photograph, taken in 1910 in the Big Cypress Swamp in Florida, shows a hunter holding a large captured snake. At the time, hunting reptiles was common both for safety and for display at fairs and zoos. The image reveals the wild, marshy setting typical of southern Florida in the early 20th century. The 1953 photograph shows visitors at the Mayan Dude Ranch in Bandera, Texas, trying to balance on a mechanical barrel known as a bucking barrel. This attraction simulated the motion of rodeo mounts and was used for training and for fun. In the Netherlands in 1963, a telephone service called Navigation Hotline helped drivers find their way before the age of satellite navigation. People called operators who checked maps and gave directions in real time. The system was a practical and innovative solution for the time. During the First World War, carrier pigeons were used not only to carry messages, but also on aerial reconnaissance missions. Small cameras were strapped to their bodies to record enemy positions. This technique helped armies gain strategic information before the wide use of surveillance aircraft. Inventor Adolf Whitman presents a cultus, also known as Barbarossa, in 1909. This mechanical robot was built to walk, speak, sing, and laugh, impressing audiences with its complexity. The creation represented one of the early advances in entertainment robotics in the early 20th century. A talking robot was built for the Texas Centennial Exposition in 1936. The creation represented technological progress and delighted visitors by answering simple questions with a mechanical voice. The project reflected the era's excitement for innovation and for the future of intelligent machines. The image shows a bicycle fitted with a small engine attached to the rear wheel, an experimental setup known as a motor wheel. This invention was created to ease personal travel before motorcycles became widespread. Although the exact date is unknown, this kind of design was common in the early decades of the 20th century. The 1960 photograph shows a gin and tonic vending machine, an unusual concept for the time. The device dispensed a ready drink into cups, reflecting post-war enthusiasm for automatic technologies. Although intriguing, the idea did not catch on and soon disappeared from the market. A shoe-shaped car drove through San Francisco in 1922 to advertise a shoe repair shop. These eye-catching promotional vehicles were used to draw customers and promote brands. The model reflects the creative spirit of street marketing of the time. The image shows the world's first electric fire engine, used by the Paris Fire Brigade around 1900. The vehicle represented a notable technological advance for the time, combining electrical innovation with practical utility. Despite its success, electric models were replaced by more powerful internal combustion engines. The 1892 image shows a curious Victorian-era exercise machine. These devices were designed to promote health and good posture, though many had unclear functions. At the time, inventions like this were popular among the elite, who looked for new ways to be active at home. The photograph shows Buffalo Bill posing alongside Native leaders in 1895. William F. Buffalo Bill Cody was a famous frontiersman and showman of the Old West. He toured with his Wild West show, which featured riders, exhibition shooters, and representatives of different tribes. Starting at 3 years old, Ruby Crane helped blind soldiers of the First World War walk through the gardens at St. Dunstan's Rehabilitation Center. The institution was in London and offered support to veterans who had lost their sight. The image shows the girl guiding one of the patients during treatment. Lionel Walter Rothschild drives a zebra-drawn carriage in London in 1894. The British banker and zoologist was known for his unusual interest in exotic animals. The scene drew attention in the streets and reflected his passion for combining science and eccentricity. The 1906 image shows instructors and soldiers at the Italian Cavalry School. The training focused on riding and maneuvering horses with precision for military use. At the time, cavalry was still an essential part of the armed forces before motor vehicles were widely introduced. Director Victor Fleming steps in to end a fight between actors who played munchkins on the set of The Wizard of Oz in 1938. The episode took place during the making of the classic, produced by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, known for its chaotic behind-the-scenes. The scene shows a curious moment behind one of the most famous films of all time. A portable milk stand was installed at Waterloo Station in 1937. These mobile counters served dairy drinks and quick snacks to passengers on the move. The initiative was part of a campaign to encourage milk consumption in the United Kingdom. A French policeman poses in full uniform in 1925, showing a striking handlebar mustache. This look was a symbol of elegance and discipline among officers of the time. The photograph reflects the visual standard and the pride tied to police service in early 20th century France. A curious contraption shows a homemade swing for 4 people, built in Finland in 1954. The simple wooden frame allowed everyone to move together. This kind of invention was common in rural areas, where families created their own ways to have fun. The Fat Men's Club of New York brought together men who weighed at least 200 pounds. To join, one had to pay a token fee and know the group's secret handshake. Founded in 1904, the club hosted social gatherings and dinners for its members. Charlie Chaplin returned to England in 1921, 9 years after leaving the country to escape poverty. Already celebrated in the United States, he was welcomed with great enthusiasm. The moment marked his triumphant return to his roots. Ozzy Osbourne appears playfully beside his son Jack, only 2 weeks old, in 1985. Known for his eccentric humor, he pretends to bite the baby's blanket while posing for the camera. The scene shows the rock star's playful and unpredictable side away from the stage.